Imagine being punished every single day for something that is, completely out of your control.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds rough.
Right. And the only way to get your own family to treat you like an actual human being is to, well, pull off a massive multi-year con.
I mean, that honestly sounds like the plot of a psychological thriller. Like you've got a desperate protagonist, a ticking clock, and this whole web of lies that could just unravel at any second.
Exactly. But it's not a modern thriller. This is the day-to-day reality of the story we're exploring today.
It really is a wild ride.
It's a story that will absolutely floor you. Today on The Deep Dive, we are unpacking Munshi Premchand's masterpiece, Nirasha, which translates to despair.
Yeah, from his really renowned collection, Mansarovar.
Right. But our mission today isn't just to, walk you through a simple plot summary. We want to really examine the brilliant, kind of tragicomic psychological warfare that a desperate woman uses to survive in a deeply oppressive household.
It is definitely a survival story.
It really is.
Yeah.
But before we step into that living room, if you rely on the Simplified Summary channel to uncover the hidden gems of classic literature, please hit that subscribe button.
Highly recommend doing that.
Definitely. Please like this video and drop a valuable comment down below. Your support is it's what allows us to keep analyzing these wild stories that still resonate so powerfully today.
And they really do resonate. Premchand has this incredible ability to use a domestic setting to expose the sheer absurdity of a rigid social system.
Oh, totally.
He takes us behind closed doors to show us exactly how power operates when no one else is looking. And, I mean, the power dynamics in this particular household are just suffocating.
Yeah, to understand why our protagonist, Nirupama, turns to straight-up deception, we really first have to understand the sheer crushing weight of her reality.
Right. Context is everything here.
I was thinking about her situation, and the best analogy I could come up with is this. Imagine you're an employee at a company, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
And your boss calls you into the office, looks you dead in the eye, and threatens to fire you and completely ruin your livelihood because it's raining outside.
Oh, man. So you're being held entirely responsible for an act of nature.
Exactly. A biological reality that she has literally zero influence over. Nirupama is married to a man named Gammandilal Tripathi.
Right.
And in the eyes of this family, she has committed, the ultimate offense. She has given birth to 3 daughters back to back.
Which is just, I mean, it's treated like a crime.
Because of this, she is treated with absolute contempt by her in-laws. But the most painful psychological abuse comes directly from her husband.
Yeah, and the text makes a very specific point of noting that Gammandilal is an educated man.
Yes, that detail is so important.
And right, he's not someone cut off from the world or ignorant how biology works, yet his behavior is just barbaric.
It's awful. He ignores her, he speaks to her with pure venom, and then he delivers this chilling ultimatum.
The ultimatum is brutal.
He flat out tells Nirupama that if she has a 4th daughter, he will abandon the house. He will leave her completely destitute.
Which, in the cultural context of the 1920s and 30s Indian middle class, that is essentially a death sentence for her social standing and her survival.
Wait, really? It was that episode?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A woman in her position had basically no independent economic recourse. Her entire existence, her dignity, her basic right to food, and her right to peace in her own home were strictly conditional on her womb.
Wow. So she literally has no inherent value as a human being in that household.
None. Her value is entirely transactional, based solely on what she can produce for the patriarchal lineage.
That is just, it shattered my heart reading about how this terror manifests in her daily life. Nirupama is living in a constant state of panic.
Yeah, the physical toll is intense.
She is undertaking these grueling physical punishments, constantly fasting and observing every religious vow she can find. The story mentions she observes Ekadashi, which is a rigorous biweekly fast where you often abstain from even water for an entire day.
Right, she's physically destroying herself, just praying for a miracle.
And the most tragic part, she is too ashamed to even show affection to her own daughters.
That part is so hard to read.
She pushes them away when her husband is around because they are living proof of her supposed failure.
She's internalized the misogyny of her household so deeply that she views her own children as symbols of her inadequacy. It's a profound psychological break.
Yeah, it really is.
And going back to your point about Gammandilal being educated, Premchand is doing something very deliberate there. He is severing the assumed link between formal education and moral intelligence.
That is exactly what stood out to me. It's wild that a man who has formal schooling still holds his wife biologically responsible for the gender of the baby.
It completely shatters the myth that going to school or reading books automatically makes you enlightened.
Yes. He might be educated in a worldly sense, but his emotional intelligence is entirely stunted by a system that tells him he is unconditionally entitled to a son.
Right. Premchand is critiquing the hypocrisy of a society that prides itself on intellectual advancement while clinging to archaic, cruel domestic practices.
Formal education definitely doesn't equal moral education. So Nirupama is pushed to the absolute brink.
She really is.
She is facing abandonment and the complete destruction of her life. She needs an escape hatch. And this desperation leads to what might be one of the most brilliant, subversive alliances in literature.
Oh, I love this part.
She writes a heart-wrenching letter to her sister-in-law, Sukeshi. Nirupama pours her heart out, explaining the ultimatum and the daily abuse.
And Sukeshi writes back. But she doesn't just offer, like, hollow sympathy. She offers a master plan.
Sukeshi is a remarkable character because she operates purely on pragmatism.
Exactly. She writes back and tells Nirupama to come visit her immediately. And the reason she gives the family. She claims that a true Mahatma, like a very powerful saint, is currently in her town, and his blessings absolutely guarantee the birth of a son.
And Gammandilal, despite his worldly education, is just desperate enough, and I guess superstitious enough, to skeptically allow the visit.
Yep, he falls for it.
So Nirupama packs her bags and goes to her sister-in-law's house. But once she arrives, Sukeshi sits her down and reveals the truth.
The big reveal.
There is no Mahatma. There is no magical blessing. Sukeshi orchestrates a masterclass in deception.
She really does. She teaches Nirupama to fake the entire thing.
She tells her to go back home and claim the Mahatma guaranteed a boy so she can at least live in peace for the 9 months of her pregnancy.
Because Sukeshi looks at Nirupama's situation and realizes a fundamental truth about oppression. You cannot reason with an unreasonable system.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right, you can't sit Gammandilal down, draw a diagram, and explain chromosomal biology to him. It won't work. His desire for a son overrides all logic.
So true.
So what does she do? She weaponizes the family's own superstitions against them. She manufactures a temporary magical shield to protect Nirupama.
Okay, I hear that, but I really struggled with this part of the plan. I have to push back here a little bit.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Isn't Sukeshi just setting Nirupama up for a much, much worse disaster? It feels like taking out a massive high-interest loan just to pay rent.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Like, sure, you're safe this month, but eventually the loan comes due, the 9 months will run out, the biological reality will hit, and there is going to be a baby.
Yeah, that's the risk.
If it's a girl, the fallout will be catastrophic. How could this possibly be a good idea?
I mean, it is a massive risk. But you have to view this through the lens of a drowning person.
A drowning person.
Yeah. If you are drowning in the middle of the ocean and someone offers you a raft that will definitely sink in 9 months, you don't reject it because it's temporary. You take the raft.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that hits hard.
Because 9 months of breathing is better than drowning today. Nirupama is subjected to daily, relentless psychological torture. 9 months of peace is a fortune. It's a vital reprieve for her mental and physical health.
I hadn't thought about it like that.
Sukeshi is just buying her time, hoping to figure out the next step later.
The drowning analogy makes a lot of sense. You just need to survive the day. So Nirupama takes the raft. She gets pregnant again.
And she goes back home, and she begins to play her part.
And the immediate results are honestly staggering. She executes Sukeshi's instructions flawlessly. She claims to have these highly specific, vivid dreams of an old woman handing her a coconut.
Which is a brilliant touch. In many South Asian traditions, a coconut is a powerful symbol of fertility.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it represents a seed, a womb, and specifically the blessing of a male heir. By claiming she dreamed of a coconut, she is feeding them the exact cultural symbols they are desperate to consume.
She doesn't stop there, though. She fakes cravings for masculine things. She pretends to feel heavy and intoxicated, claiming her eyes are red.
And the family falls for it entirely.
Gammandil's transformation is the most jarring part of this whole charade. He goes from ignoring her to becoming incredibly loving and attentive. He brings her gifts.
The turnaround is crazy.
Every single night, he sits by her bed and reads her heroic tales from the Mahabharata. He specifically reads stories about the great warrior Abhimanyu, who famously learned military strategy while still in his mother's womb.
Right, because Gammandilal is trying to influence the baby's spirit, trying to engineer a warrior.
They even pick out a hypermasculine name for the unborn child, Teg Bahadur.
The irony of him reading tales of ancient warriors to a fetus that might very well be female is incredibly rich.
It's almost funny if it weren't so sad.
But this period of the story is vital for Nirupama's internal development. Because instead of just sitting back and enjoying the newfound pampering and gifts, Nirupama experiences a profound, bitter realization.
The psychological toll of maintaining this illusion begins to really weigh on her.
Exactly. She realizes that none of this affection is real. Her husband doesn't love her. He loves the idea of the son she's supposedly carrying.
Yeah, Premchand gives us this devastating line where Nirupama thinks of herself as an animal being given good fodder only for its milk.
That quote encapsulates the entire critique of the story. She is hyper-aware of her own commodification.
It's so dehumanizing.
Her humanity, her personality, her fears, they have all been erased. She has been reduced entirely to her utility as a vessel.
It reminds me of a tragic magic trick. Imagine a magician up on stage doing an elaborate sleight of hand. The audience is giving a standing ovation, cheering wildly.
Right.
But the magician is standing there miserable because they know the audience isn't clapping for them, they are clapping for an illusion.
That's a great way to put it.
Nirupama knows that the second the illusion drops, the applause turns back into absolute hatred. It highlights how twisted the dynamic is. She literally has to use her own unborn child as a hostage, as leverage, just to get her husband to speak kindly to her.
And she's acutely aware that she is living on borrowed time. Every single day that her stomach grows, the clock ticks louder.
Yeah, you can only hold your breath for so long.
Eventually, the 9 months run out, and Nirupama's biological reality crashes right into Gammandilal's fantasy.
Delivery day arrives, and Premchand paints this incredible, tension-filled scene of contrast. Outside the delivery room, Gammandilal has gone all out.
Oh, he really has.
He has set up a grand shamiana, a massive celebratory tent. He's hired professional singers to perform. He's prepared mountains of sweets. He's even opened sacks of grain to distribute to the poor in celebration.
He is entirely ready to welcome Teg Bahadur into the world.
It's a public spectacle of patriarchal expectation. He is performing his role as the triumphant father of a son before the child has even taken a breath.
But inside that room, the atmosphere is suffocating. Nirupama is in absolute terror.
I can't even imagine.
Imagine the physical pain of labor, compounded by the knowledge that the outcome might destroy your life. She's just waiting for the axe to fall.
The baby is born, and it's fourth girl.
The collision of the lie and reality is instantaneous and brutal.
The aftermath is like a switch being flipped. The celebrations vanish into thin air. The musicians are told to pack up and leave. The sweets are forgotten.
The complete opposite of what was happening moments before.
Gammandilal, the supposedly educated, loving husband who was reading scripture the night before, just gives this hollow, defeated sigh and says, "It's God's will."
And the entire house is plunged into mourning.
It's as if someone died, but someone was just born. The birth of a healthy child is treated as a calamity.
The stark contrast between the public spectacle of the father's expectations and the private terror of the mother is one of the most powerful elements of Nirasha.
It really exposes everything.
It strips away any remaining illusion that this family cares about life itself. They only care about a very specific type of life.
So we fast forward a year, and Nirupama is right back where she started. The 9-month loan has defaulted.
She's being abused again.
Yeah, the threats of abandonment have returned. She is so utterly broken by the cycle that she writes to Sukeshi again, saying she's done.
She wants to renounce the world, take Sanya's, and just leave society entirely. She cannot endure the psychological torture anymore.
But here's where Sukeshi proves she is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. She doesn't just write a letter this time.
No, she arrives at the house in person.
Sukeshi shows up and weaponizes her own grief. She puts on this elaborate performance of devastation. She acts utterly shocked that the baby was a girl.
It's a brilliant performance.
She looks at Nirupama and, in front of the whole family, cunningly asks, "Did you strictly follow the Mahatma's rule? Did you remember to feed 5 Brahmins every single Tuesday without fail?"
It is a stroke of absolute genius. She provides a manufactured out.
And Nirupama catches on immediately. She plays along, looking devastated, and says, "Oh no, I forgot."
And just like that, the entire narrative shifts.
It wasn't that the Mahatma was a fraud. It wasn't that the blessing didn't work. It was that Nirupama failed to complete the required administrative ritual.
By blaming a failed ritual, Sukeshi completely resets the board.
It's amazing.
She validates the family's superstitious belief system. She essentially tells them, the magic is real, the blessing works, you just didn't follow the recipe correctly.
I was reading this and just expressing pure disbelief at how easily the in-laws are tricked again. It literally becomes a subscription model for basic human decency.
It's a subscription model. That's exactly what it is.
As long as she promises a boy next time and has a convenient ritual to blame if it fails, she gets treated well. But I have to ask, do the in-laws actually believe it?
That's the big question.
Are Gammandilal and his parents truly that gullible, or are they just playing along?
To understand why they believe it, we have to look at the psychological mechanism of cognitive dissonance and the sunk cost fallacy.
Okay, break that down for me.
Admitting that the Mahatma was fake would require them to admit a terrifying truth, that they have absolutely no control over the situation.
Right.
It would mean accepting that their burning desire for a son is entirely subject to the random, uncontrollable lottery of biology.
And for a patriarchal system built on the illusion of total control, that reality is unacceptable.
Precisely. By accepting the failed ritual excuse, they regain a false sense of control. They can tell themselves, next time, we will personally make sure she feeds the 5 Brahmins, and then we will definitely get our son.
So they're essentially tricking themselves.
Their desperation makes them actively complicit in the deception. They would rather believe in faulty magic than admit a woman's biology is beyond their command.
They want to be conned because the con is more comforting than the truth.
Exactly.
Sukeshi understands the psychology of the oppressor better than the oppressors understand themselves. She knows they will swallow the lie if it protects their worldview.
Which brings us to the core issue of the story and the true meaning of its title. Nirasha means despair.
Right.
On the surface, a casual reader might think the title refers to Gammandilal and the family experiencing the despair of not having a son.
But after unpacking the layers of this psychological warfare, you realize the real despair, the profound, soul-crushing despair, belongs entirely to Nirupama.
It really does.
It's not the despair of failing to produce a male heir. It is the despair of a woman who has pulled back the curtain on her own life and realized she has absolutely no inherent value in her own home.
She is only valued for what her body can manufacture.
The tragedy is that her only tool for survival, the only way she can buy a few months of peace, food, and basic respect, is through endless, exhausting deception.
She is trapped in a cycle where the cost of her survival is her own authenticity.
Yeah, she has to constantly play a character, constantly manipulate, and constantly live in fear of the illusion shattering.
That is the true Nirasha. The systemic despair of knowing that your reality is fundamentally broken and the only way to endure it is to become an active participant in the lie.
It's a heavy, brilliant story and a perfect example of why Premchand's writing remains so timeless. He forces us to look at the lengths people will go to just to be treated like human beings.
Absolutely.
And for you listening, if you want more deep dives into the hidden brilliance of classic literature, please remember to subscribe to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel.
Do it, you won't regret it.
Hit the like button and drop a comment letting us know your thoughts on Nirupama's drastic survival tactics. Would you have played the con? Do you think Sukeshi's plan was justified? We read every comment and we'd love to hear your take.
I want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to ponder on your own.
Go for it.
Through Sukeshi's quick thinking, Nirupama has successfully bought herself another 9 months of peace by getting pregnant a 5th time and resetting the lie about the failed ritual.
Right.
But what happens when the biological clock runs out? What happens when biology finally stops giving her the ability to get pregnant at all? Is the ultimate tragedy here that her only method of survival relies on validating the very system that is oppressing her?
When the rain finally stops for good, the excuse is gone. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.